Hello, welcome to the 2011 through 2012 NFL regular season schedule Week 3 picks. We're going to start off with New England at Buffalo at 12 o'clock Central Time on CBS. Drafting defensive lineman Marcel Darius was a nice start for Buffalo, as was the majority of the picks the team made in the draft. But the Bills need help in nearly every part of their game except for the running game. Their offensive line is awful, their defensive line cannot tackle, and the secondary is small. But even with all of that, 2011 through 2012 will still be a better season for the Bills than 2010 through 2011. The Patriots looked invincible last season until the New York Jets limited the Patriots' running game in the playoffs and knocked them out. The Patriots made two major changes in the offseason to maintain their supremacy in the AFC East. They got some help in the defensive secondary, and they needed more size in the running game. Danny Woodhead is a great story, but the teams had him figured out by the playoffs, so the Patriots need a change of pace to go with Woodhead. In the second round, the Patriots picked up defensive back Rasheed Darling and running back Shane Vereen. Considering the Patriots' past success at player scouting, it is safe to assume that the Patriots solved their problems. This should look like a toe-to-toe matchup. Patriots 31, Bills 30. At 12 o'clock Central Time on Fox, it's San Francisco at Cincinnati. Winning consistently has never been the Cincinnati Bengals' strong suit, but they are hoping a pair of talented rookies could begin to change that. After performing well in a close loss, quarterback Andy Dalton and wide receiver A.J. Green make their home debuts Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. The Bengals have registered 2 winning seasons since 1990, including the 10-6 finish 2 years ago. They followed that by going 4-12 in 2010 through 2011, but that gave them a chance to snap up Green with the number 4 overall draft pick in this year's draft and grab Dalton early in the second round. With Carson Palmer embroiled in a dispute with the franchise, Dalton has been given the chance to jump into the starting lineup immediately. After throwing for 81 yards before leaving with a wrist injury in his pro debut at Cleveland, the former TCU quarterback nearly led his team to a comeback victory at Denver last Sunday. Cincinnati, who was 1-1, fell behind 17-3 early in the third quarter, but Dalton threw a pair of touchdown passes to pull the Bengals within 2 points with 11:17 left in the game. That's as close as they got, though, failing to get inside the Broncos' 35-yard line on their final 3 possessions in a 24-22 defeat. Dalton finished with 332 yards while completing 27 of 41 passes. Green caught 10 of those for 124 yards and a touchdown. The former University of Georgia star scored a 41-yard touchdown in his first NFL reception during a season-opening victory in Cleveland. The 49ers have won 8 of 11 regular season matchups, including a 20-13 home victory in 2007 against the Bengals, their opponent in 2 of their 5 Super Bowl victories. San Francisco, though, has dropped its last 2 games in Cincinnati and is making its first visits there since December 14, 2003. The 49ers have also dropped 5 straight road games against AFC opponents and look for this one to be a 6th. Bengals 19, 49ers 16. At 12 o'clock Central Time on CBS, it's Miami at Cleveland. Quarterback Colt McCoy has been handed the reins of the offense in his second season and has played solidly, if not spectacularly, so far. McCoy's favorite target this season has been Peyton Hillis, but wide receiver Mohamed Massaquoi could see some deep passes thrown his way. If Cleveland can complete a few of these early in the game, then the Dolphins secondary can be in for another long afternoon, which just goes to show you that it's now or never for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins could not have gotten their season off to a worse start, losing their first 2 games at home by a combined score of 61-37. With road games against the San Diego Chargers and New York Jets approaching, Sunday's game at Cleveland could be the Dolphins' best chance at their first win of the season before a Week 7 home date with Denver. Tony Sparano is on the hot seat, again, while Miami's formerly stout defense has regressed into mediocrity. What will it take for the Dolphins to pull out a win, besides a sacrifice to the football gods? That is, nothing. Cleveland is in the same kind of spot as Miami. A clearly third-rate team in a division with two perennial titans, Miami will have to play better than they did against Houston. Otherwise, look for Sparano to eventually be let go later this season if all the troubles massacre. Browns 32, Dolphins 16. At 12 o'clock Central Time on CBS, it's Denver at Tennessee. The Tennessee Titans are starting to look pretty prescient for that big contract they handed out this summer. Just not the one they gave to Chris Johnson. Matt Hasselbeck looks to duplicate a breakout performance with his new team, hopefully with a little more help from his running game, as the Titans host the injury-ravaged Denver Broncos on Sunday. Throughout August, a contract extension for the holdout Johnson dominated storylines coming out of Titans camp, overshadowing a move that perhaps was even more critical for Tennessee's short-term success: a new quarterback. Having let Vince Young and Kerry Collins walk away following a season in which they ranked 25th in passing yardage, the club signed Hasselbeck to a 3-year, $21 million deal immediately after the lockout. The longtime Seattle signal caller has quickly responded by adding some punch to the Titans' usually run-first attack. He ranks 6th in the league with 621 passing yards after throwing for 358 in last Sunday's 26-13 win over Baltimore. Success has not come as easy on the ground, even if Munchak's club is armed with a $56 million running back. Johnson got only 9 carries in a Week 1 loss to Jacksonville as he worked his way back into game shape, but got a steady dose of action last week, 24 carries, and was held to 53 yards. Despite his struggles, the Titans 1-1 still dominated a rugged foe, and Johnson was more than happy to let the game serve as a statement to future opponents. The Broncos, who are 1-1, likely need the injuries to stop if they're going to keep winning. Champ's status is still up in the air due to a bulky hamstring. The All-Pro cornerback's absence could be particularly critical as the Denver secondary is forced to deal with Kenny Britt, who along with Pittsburgh's Mike Wallace has the longest active streak in the league, 5 games of 85 or more receiving yards. Looks like Denver's 400th franchise win will come some other time. Titans 38, Broncos 24. At 12 o'clock Central Time on Fox, it's Detroit at Minnesota. Talk about hot starts. Stafford has dissected his first 2 opponents to the tune of 599 yards and 7 touchdowns, completing passes to 10 different receivers. Yikes. Sunday, Stafford faces a Vikings defense that is number 23 against the pass, 280 yards. The Vikings have a terrific corner in Antoine Winfield, but are suspect on the other side and haven't played particularly well in 2 losses. The Vikings have a new offensive coordinator scheme and quarterback. Throw in the fact that there was no offseason, just a lockout, and it's no surprise the Vikings have struggled to get any continuity in the passing game. They are averaging 120 yards, 31st, and have 1 completion of more than 20 yards. The Vikings are desperate for a win and playing at home where the Lions haven't won since 1997, but this is a different Lions team with too much talent for a Vikings team rebuilding. McNabb never knew how much he would miss playing in Philadelphia. The Vikings offense is still a work in progress. Lions 31, Vikings 17. At 12 o'clock Central Time on CBS, it's Houston at New Orleans. The Texans' defense will face its toughest task up to date. New Orleans, 1-1, ranks 5th offensively, averaging 429.5 yards and 32 points after defeating Chicago 30-13 last week. The Saints have outscored their opponents 128-78 and winning 4 of their last 5 home games. Drew Brees has averaged 313.5 yards and thrown for 15 touchdowns while winning 5 of his last 6 at home versus AFC opponents. Brees threw for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns versus the Bears, including a 79-yard scoring pass to Devery Henderson, who had 3 catches for 103 yards as wide receiver Marcus Colston continues to recover from a broken collarbone suffered in a Week 1 loss at Green Bay. Houston has a pretty strong connection of its own with quarterback Matt Schaub and wide receiver Andre Johnson, a tandem that has hooked up 14 times for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns through just 2 games. These numbers have helped offset the limited production from reigning NFL rushing champion Arian Foster, who missed Week 1 versus Indianapolis while recovering from a hamstring injury and carried only 10 times for 33 yards last Sunday. Foster's backup Ben Tate has stepped up, rushing for 103 yards versus Miami, after totaling 116 versus the Colts. But New Orleans gave up only 60 yards on the ground versus Chicago. It marks just the third time in the last 4 regular season games that they held their opponents to fewer than 100 yards on the ground, and the 14th time in 15 games that they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher. Saints 47, Texans 35. At 12 o'clock Central Time on Fox, it's the Giants of New York at Philadelphia. I haven't liked the Giants matchup against the Eagles at all over the last few years. I think Philadelphia's team speed and mobile quarterback make them an impossible task for the Giants defense. I like the matchup even less when I think about how the Giants secondary has played and how beat up the Giants offense is. I envision the Eagles scoring a lot in this game. The way the Giants play in their soft read and react zone more often than they should, they'll give way too much of a cushion to the Eagles' speedy wide receivers. It will be even worse if Vick is on his game and scrambles around, making Macklin and Jackson and tight end Brent Selleck, Steve Smith, and running back LaShawn McCoy even tougher to cover. There will be plenty of big plays for the Eagles' passing attack, and when the Giants figure out how to contain that, the Eagles can hit them with McCoy, who has been very effective in his first 2 games. Meanwhile, without Manningham and a viable third wide receiver, how are the Giants going to keep up? Hakeem Nicks may see triple coverage. Yes, the Giants will get tight end Travis Beckham back, but is he really the savior of this depleted offense? Their best hope will be to run on the Eagles, something they definitely should be able to do. They should run a lot, and they should run even when it seems obvious that they should pass. That will control the clock, move the ball, and keep the Eagles' weapons off the field. If they do that, my opinion changes, but I'll believe it when I see it. They're working against muscle memory with offensive coordinator Kevin Gilbride, who always says he wants to run, but always abandons it as soon as he can. The Giants will get behind that, and that will knock them out of their run-first intentions, and that will be disastrous. I hate picking blowouts in these NFC East games because these division battles have a way of always have a way of being close, and always somehow coming down to the final minutes. But as I looked objectively at this matchup and the Eagles' arsenal and the depleted state of the Giants, I just don't see how that will happen this time. Eagles 38, Giants 20. At 12 o'clock Central Time on CBS, it's Jacksonville at Carolina. The Jacksonville Jaguars were hoping to ease rookie quarterback Blaine Gabbert into the starting lineup, but a lackluster defeat forced them to change their plans. In his first professional start Sunday at Carolina, Gabbert will try to match the spectacular performances of fellow rookie quarterback Cam Newton and earn something that's so far eluded, the Heisman Trophy winner, an NFL victory. After they traded up to take Gabbert with the 10th overall draft pick, the Jaguars, who are 1-1, were expected to let the former Missouri quarterback get acclimated to the NFL and the team's offense while starter David Garrard played. That process accelerated, however, when the team cut Garrard following a poor preseason and again after Luke McCown threw 4 interceptions in a 32-3 loss at the New York Jets last Sunday. Under pressure after missing the playoffs in 3 consecutive campaigns, Jaguars head coach Jack Del Rio announced Wednesday that Gabbert would take over. If Del Rio required any reassurance about his decision, he would need to look no further than this week's opponent. The Panthers 0-2 are hoping to get their first win with a little more balance. They have totaled 145 yards on the ground in 2 games after averaging more than 100 per game in each of the last 6 seasons. The first-year head coach Ron Rivera isn't worried, but this weekend he will face a team that is allowing 3.2 yards per carry, the 6th lowest average in the league. Jacksonville routed Carolina 37-6 in the most recent matchup in 2007, but the Panthers prevailed 24-23 during the previous meeting in Charlotte in 2003 on a touchdown pass with 16 seconds remaining. Panthers 27, Jaguars 26. At 3:05 Central Time on CBS, it's Kansas City at San Diego. The 2011 through 2012 regular season has been a different story. The Chargers have a surprisingly potent offense against porous defenses. They beat a depleted Minnesota Vikings squad 24-17 on opening day. The next week, they lost to the New England Patriots, but only because Tom Brady and company scored more points. Normally, the Chiefs pride themselves on having a fantastic turnover ratio. This year, Kansas City is tied for last with a -7 turnover ratio. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the other team tied with them in the turnover department. Last year, the Chiefs were +9 in turnovers, which was tied for 5th in the NFL. Head coach Todd Haley has to do something. A dismal training camp saw incoming draft pick Jonathan Baldwin injured in a preseason locker room fight. Baldwin was finally in practice again September 21st in limited fashion. Another draft pick, fullback Shane Bannon, was cut from the team. He could have been a vital addition with the Chiefs' running attack, but instead was a wasted draft pick. Someone has to step up. Everyone on the Chiefs is playing like they completely forgot what a touchdown really looks like. This clearly isn't the team as a year ago. Whether it is because of the lockout or not, it really doesn't matter. Attitude reflects leadership. Even though head coach Todd Haley isn't on the field making plays, he is still ultimately responsible for the Chiefs and their preparation for games. Chargers 23, Chiefs 6. At 3:05 Central Time on CBS is the New York Jets at Oakland. Since these two have met in 1962, New York changed both its team name and fortunes in California. They have made 14 trips to California to play the Raiders, including the postseason. However, they are 2-12 in those trips to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum and was now known as Overstock.com Coliseum. They will need to buck that trend this weekend if they want to be considered true contenders for the AFCN Super Bowl. Two players are going to have to step up. Sean Green will definitely have to be in the running game, and of course Mark Sanchez. The running game must also be better. The offensive line will have to hold up despite the loss of the best center in the game, Nick Mangold. Green will have to average more than 3.1 yards a carry for this team to be successful against the Raiders. If the House of Horrors don't change in Oakland, look for the Jets to struggle even further down the road as they will also go to New England and Baltimore in the next 2 weeks. Raiders 33, Jets 27. At 3:05 Central Time on CBS, it's Baltimore at St. Louis. Ravens quarterback Flacco took a step back in last week's loss to the Titans. Flacco threw a pair of interceptions and was never able to get the offense moving in the second half. The Baltimore quarterback is 32 for 61, 424 yards, and 4 touchdowns, along with a quarterback rating of 82.8%. Flacco will look to get the offense moving on Sunday, however, with starting wide receiver Lee Evans ruled out. Flacco will have to get the young wide receivers involved to complement veteran Bolden. Rookies Doss, Williams, and Smith could each see their share of playing time as long as Evans is out. The Rams secondary is suspect at best and has allowed opposing quarterbacks to throw for an average of over 300 yards in its first 2 games. The Baltimore Ravens offense will need to spark on the road again this week. Quarterback Joe Flacco will bounce back after a less than stellar performance at Tennessee. Rams quarterback Sam Bradford will need to step up to have a chance on Sunday. The Ravens defense will have a big day. Ravens 24, Rams 10. At 3:15 Central Time on Fox, it's Arizona at Seattle. The Cardinals rank near the bottom of the NFL in defense, but a meeting with the winless Seahawks could improve their numbers. These NFC West rivals face off Sunday, of course, as I said, in Seattle, while the defending division champions try to avoid their first 0-3 start since 2002. After Carolina's Cam Newton shredded Arizona's defense for 422 passing yards in the Cardinals season opener, they did little to slow down Washington in a 22-21 loss last Sunday. Grossman threw for 291 yards and 2 touchdowns, while former Cardinal Tim Hightower rushed for 96 yards on 20 carries. The Skins finished with 455 yards of offense. Arizona led 21-13 in the fourth quarter, but Washington scored on their 3 fourth-quarter drives, taking the lead on a 34-yard field goal with 1:45 to go. While Cope could have a big game against a Seahawks defense that has given up 437 passing yards, and yet to force a turnover, Wells could have difficulty on the ground. Seattle is surrendering 3.1 yards per carry, which is 5th best in the league. That may be the only thing the Seahawks have to be pleased about after the first 2 weeks. Seattle followed up its 33-17 season opening loss at San Francisco with a 24-0 defeat at Pittsburgh, finishing with 164 total yards and has been outscored 33-0 in the first half of its games. While turnovers were not a problem against the Steelers, the running game was. The Seahawks were held to 33 rushing yards by Pittsburgh, ranked last in the league with 47.5 per game, and Marshawn Lynch has 44 yards on 19 carries. Jackson could have Rice available after he missed the first 2 weeks with a shoulder injury. Rice had 17 catches for 280 yards last season with the Vikings as Jackson's teammate after amassing a career-high 1,312 receiving yards in 2009 through 2010. However, the team will be without veteran guard Robert Gallery, who needs groin surgery and will miss at least a month. Ouch! The Seahawks will go with Paul McQuiston at guard instead of moving rookie right tackle James Carpenter. Cardinals 39, Seahawks 36. At 3:15 Central Time on Fox, it's Atlanta at Tampa. Buccaneers coach Morris believes his squad may be battling the Falcons for NFC South supremacy for years to come. There's one thing the Bucs must do first in order to call it a rivalry: beat the Falcons. With both teams coming from behind victories, Atlanta seeks its 5th straight win over Tampa on Sunday at Raymond James Stadium. Morris, in his 3rd year as coach, has yet to beat Atlanta, losing 4 games by an average of 5.8 points. Tampa finished 10-6 last season out of a playoff spot in 3 games behind NFC best Atlanta. Morris believes his team is on the cusp of challenging for the division title, though especially given last week's gutty 24-20 victory in Minnesota. Freeman threw for 243 yards and led 2 fourth-quarter touchdown drives to help overcome a 17-0 halftime deficit. Blount scored his 2nd touchdown of the game with 31 seconds remaining. Tampa bounced back to outscore the Vikings 24-3 in the second half, a performance Freeman said is exactly what the Buccaneers needed. Freeman has completed only 54% of his passes and compiled a 74% rating, while throwing 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions and 4 losses against Atlanta. His counterpart, though, has been even worse against Tampa. Although Matt Ryan is 5-1 against Tampa, he has thrown 8 interceptions to 5 touchdowns for a passer rating of 65.9, his worst against any team. Still, Freeman believes the two will be facing each other in divisional battles as they continue to improve. Atlanta also must provide better protection for Ryan, who has been sacked 9 times through the first 2 games and was limited in practice Wednesday due to a knee injury. Tampa is going to be hungry as they will pile up at least 2 sacks on the pocket-prone Ryan. Buccaneers 42, Falcons 31. At 3:15 Central Time on Fox, it's Green Bay at Chicago. Do the Packers have the Bears number? Well, the historic rivalry peaked last season when the teams played 3 games that weren't decided until the final minute, capped by the Packers' 21-14 victory in the NFC Championship at Soldier Field in January. But as close as the teams were on the scoreboard, the Packers looked to be on the rise, with the Bears struggling to keep up. The Bears will feel the sting of that loss, and the Packers will make it look like that way again. No matter what happens Sunday at Soldier Field, the Bears will have some catching up to do. Packers 38, Bears 21. At 7:20 Central Time on NBC, it's Sunday Night Football, Pittsburgh at Indy. The matchup between the Colts and the Steelers was expected to be one of the marquee matchups of Week 3 when the NFL regular season schedule was made. Manning and the Colts would face the defending AFC champions on Sunday night. Now, Kerry Collins is playing quarterback for the Colts and not Manning, and the Colts look like one of the worst teams in the NFL through 2 games. As a fan of the Colts, this will be a difficult game to watch in prime time. Colts offense with Kerry Collins and the inexperienced offensive line will likely struggle mightily against the Steelers' blitzing defensive front. If the Steelers blitz frequently, like should be expected, several Colts turnovers should also be expected by fans. For fans of the Colts, it is becoming difficult to watch the team struggle so greatly. The Colts are not the same team without Manning, and it's becoming more and more apparent every week. They will surely win a few games this year, but I don't see that happening this week against the Steelers. For another week, the Colts and their fans are likely to suffer through another painful loss. Colts fans should learn to appreciate Manning more and more after every game played without him. The one bright spot, however, for the team could be that Manning has a chance to make an appearance at the game after showing up to practice several times in the past week. Steelers 35, Colts 10. And concluding Week 3, it's Washington at Dallas, 7:30 Central Time on ESPN. Since the inception of Monday Night Football in 1970, Washington is 27-33 all-time, playing in the nationally televised contests. The Skins made their Monday Night Football debut in 1970 with a 34-10 road loss to the Oakland Raiders. The last time the Redskins played on Monday Night Football was against the Eagles on November 15, 2010. The Eagles won, however, 59-28. Washington is 11-18 playing on the road on Monday night. The Redskins' last road win on Monday night was a 20-12 win over the Eagles on September 17, 2007 at Lincoln Financial Field. The Redskins and Cowboys have played 14 times on Monday night, with the series tied at 7-7. The Redskins have faced Dallas on Monday night more than any other opponent. The last time the Redskins and Cowboys played on Monday night was on September 19, 2005. The Skins won 14-13 with a memorable fourth quarter comeback sparked by Moss's 2 touchdowns. Dallas is 42-29 all-time playing on Monday nights. The Cowboys' 42 wins on Monday nights are more than any other team. Cowboys 28, Redskins 27. And that concludes Week 3 of my 2011 through 2012 NFL regular season schedule picks. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy it.